Check them. Number 1, Binderee, the Grand National winner. Carl Llewellyn in the saddle today. Those familiar green and white colours of Raymond Bold. Number 2 is Blowing Wind, Tony McCoy. 3 is Village King, Richard Johnson. Just going on a little bit there. 4 is Smarty, Timmy Murphy. 5 is Brow Joshy, Andrew Thornton. 6, Goganar, Warren Marston. 7 is Amberley House, Tony Dobbin. 8, Moore Lane, Mark Bradburn. Moore Lane is visored for the first time today. 9, Heidi, Brian Harding. 10, Shannon Gale, Paul Maloney. 11 is the Major, Anthony Ross. 12, Skillwise, Richard McGrath. Number 13 is Ardent Scout, Dominic Elsworth, claiming the 3. 14, Impertio, is Brian Story. And 15, Scott and Green, David O'Meara, claiming the 3. So 15 runners.
Who controversially, some say, missed a crack at the Grand National last year. Ginger McCain, of course, is trainer, famous for training Red Rum. Amberley House is the 5-to-1 favourite. Blowing Wind, 11-2, along with Village King. So then 7-to-1 Moore Lane, last season's Grand National winner earlier this year. Binderee on the drift out of 10s from 8s. Also 10-to-1 Goganard. 11-to-1 Shannon Gale. Smarty, who was runner-up in the Grand National to Red Marauder, is 12-to-1. Incidentally, Red Marauder is likely to run at Newbury on Saturday over hurdles. 14-to-1 Ardent Scout, 25-to-1 Brow Joshy and Heidi the third. Scott and Green, 33-to-1, and it's 40-to-1 Bar.
22 fences, and Moore Lane jumps off in the lead in this first-time visor. Quite a short run to the first. Let's see how he jumps it. And it looks as if Goganard was the one that we lost at the first. As they go to the second, it's Heidi who's moved up on the outside with Scott and Green. And Binderee has gone at the second. So drama at the first 2 fences, and Heidi leads from Scott and Green, then Ardent Scout third, then Moore Lane is back in 4th, then comes Smarty in 5th, then comes Skillwise and Impertio as they go now to the 4th fence, and on the outside Scott and Green with Heidi and Ardent Scout, then Moore Lane and Smarty, Shannon Gale and Skillwise, then the Major and Amberley House, Village King, Blowing Wind, and then towards the back of the field Brow Joshy, and just in front of that is Impertio, but Ardent Scout's going up to join Heidi in the lead, and we join Jim McGrath.
Well, what a sensation in the early stages. Last year's Grand National winner, or this year's Grand National winner, has come to grief, and there's Carl Llewellyn up on his feet okay. He's pretty disgusted, but look at Binderee, the loose horse on the inside, the chestnut with the white face. He's anxious to get up there into the action, and he's being preceded by another loose horse in Goganar, but heading up now towards the 5th fence, and the leader is Heidi from Ardent Scout, and behind them is Scott and Green. And look at the loose horses up there. They want to get into the action. Binderee remembers where he was last April, and they're all over that one, the 5th okay. So it's Heidi showing the way, preceded by the loose horses from Scott and Green and Ardent Scout. Just in behind them is Skillwise as they come to the 6th. Further back then Shannon Gale. Moore Lane is out very deep on the track. Then Village King, followed by Smarty and Amberley House and Brow Joshy and the Major. Back in the field in company there with Impertio as they head up now towards the chair. The biggest fence on the course. Scott and Green leads towards it now, but out jumped by Heidi, and they all got over that safely. So heading up towards the water in front of the stands, it's Heidi who regains the lead here from Scott and Green. Ardent Scout behind them from Skillwise and Moore Lane out wide. They're followed by Village King, and further back is Smarty, followed then on the outside by the Major. Further back then Amberley House, and the 2 riderless horses are heading towards the stables. They've crashed through the outside rail. They're okay though. Heading out there towards the Melling Road. Heidi leads Skillwise and Scott and Green from Moore Lane. Ardent Scout behind them, out deep as Smarty from Village King and Amberley House. Shannon Glen is behind them. Shannon Gale from Brow Joshy and Blowing Wind being ridden from behind. Further back in the field the Major, who's well out the back with Impertio as we rejoin John Hanmer.
And 13 of the 15 runners still standing as they come to fence number 9. And Heidi with the sheepskin noseband just in the lead, and Moore Lane pecked badly, and Brow Joshy a faller at the back of the field. Jockey and horse quickly up as they come to the 10th, and Heidi, Scott and Green, Skillwise, Moore Lane, Smarty on the outside. Village King, the back marker, just preceded by Blowing Wind and Shannon Gale as they come to the next open ditch. And Heidi just in the lead from Scott and Green, then Skillwise. And Morlane, a faller there. And he's quickly up. Mark Bradburn gets hold of him. He hasn't got up yet, but he has now. And Heidi goes to the next, headed there by Scott and Green. A very slow jump by Heidi. Village King still the back marker. Just in front of him, Blowing Wind, who's still going extremely well as they come now to the fence before Becher's. And what's going to lead here? And it's just Scott and Green from Heidi, and a very bad mistake there by Shannon Gale. That's virtually put him out of it as they come to Becher's Brook. And it's Scott and Green and the blinkers. On the right of the picture, Ardent Scout. On the left in the noseband is the Major. Then Heidi and Smarty's right up there too. Then Amberley House and Impertio. Then Skillwise and Village Green. And Tony McCoy still holding up Blowing Wind as they go to the Foynhaven fence, and Scott and Green leads over it from the Major, Ardent Scout, Heidi. Then comes Amberley House, Smarty, Impertio, Skillwise, Blowing Wind. As they go now to the canal turn, and Skillwise, Scott and Green just in front. Scott and Green from Ardent Scout. Then in third place, the Major. They've come past where they started, and they're going now to Valentine's Brook. And Scott and Green on the outside of Arctic Scout. A mistake there by Heidi. And they've got 5 fences to jump, and still in the lead is Scott and Green. Scott and Green with Ardent Scout in second. Then Amberley House has jumped into third. Then comes the Major as they go to the last open ditch, which is 4 from home, and it's Scott and Green from Ardent Scout. Then Amberley House and the Major, and a bad mistake by the leader. Then Impertio's made ground, then Skillwise, and then comes Blowing Wind as they go to the third last fence. And Ardent Scout has taken a narrow lead now from Scott and Green, and Amberley House, and the Major a faller, and Impertio nearly went as well. And as they go to the Melling Road with 2 to jump, it's Ardent Scout in the lead from Scott and Green and Amberley House, and they're well clear of Skillwise as we join Jim McGrath.
Ardent Scout it is out in front here for Dominic Elsworth, leads by 2 or 3 lengths. Amberley House is now hard at work. Tony Dobbin gives him a crack with the whip there. Scott and Green has run so gallantly, drops back into third now, and they've drawn away a good 8 or 10 lengths to Skillwise as they've got 2 fences left to jump in the Tote Becher chase, and it's Ardent Scout out in front by 5 or 6 lengths. Amberley House is giving chase now as they head towards the second last. Ardent Scout takes off a mighty leap at it, lands over at 8 lengths in front of Amberley House. Jumping in third, Scott and Green. Blowing Wind is very weary in fourth, followed by Skillwise with 1 left to jump in the Tote Becher chase, and Ardent Scout's over it well. He's jumped well, he stays well. He's about 8 lengths in front now of Amberley House. They've drawn right away now from Blowing Wind, who goes into third from Skillwise, and Scott and Green and Smarty running on late. But at the elbow, it's all Ardent Scout for Dominic Elsworth. It's Ardent Scout by the best part of 15 lengths and drawing away. This is a good performance, a great staying performance. He loved the fences, jumped well and stayed well. Ardent Scout goes on to win it well for Dominic Elsworth. Ardent Scout, trained by Sue Smith, the winner of the Tote Becher chase, wins it by 15, 20 lengths. Second, Amberley House. Blowing Wind is just going to hold on for third. Village King gets fourth. Then in fifth is Smarty. Sixth is Skillwise. Seventh, Heidi. In eighth then is Scott and Green. In ninth is Impertio. And they are the only finishers. Shannon Gale has been pulled up as a long way behind them, just coming up to the elbow now. The winner, number 13, Ardent Scout, who's owned by Mrs. Alicia Skeen and W.S. Skeen, trained by Sue Smith and ridden by Dominic Elsworth. Second is number 7, Amberley House, owned by Halewood International Limited, trained by Ginger McCain and ridden by Tony Dobbin. And third, there's the winner's price, 14 to 1, Ardent Scout. And third is number 2, Blowing Wind, owned by Peter Deal, trained by Martin Pipe, ridden by Tony McCoy. Fourth is Village King.
The Becher chase. First, number 13, Ardent Scout at 14 to 1. Second, number 7, Amberley House, the 9 to 2 favourite. And third, number 2, Blowing Wind. Third over the national fences again at 5 to 1. All 15 round.